So the next part is kind of myopia. I've kind of identified, maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm right, that there's two main types of SaaS, or two distinct classes of SaaS. The first one is SaaS, which is software as a service by substitution, and the second one is SaaS-B, software as a service and with added value. It's kind of like when you go to McDonald's and they say, is that large fries, or would you like a sundae with that? That's kind of the added value. So SaaS-B is like McDonald's SaaS.
Supersized SaaS?
Supersized SaaS. No, you can't supersize anymore because Michael Moore started everyone. So looking at the first one, that substitution model, it substitutes an existing offering by SaaS. So basically what it does is it takes something that already exists and just delivers it another way. So MYOB, which is a desktop accounting suite in Australasia, or in the States as well actually, has MYOB net accounts. So it's the same stuff, ported a different way. There's obviously issues with that in terms of data file sizes and transfer rates and optimization and all those sorts of things. So it's not ideal, but that's kind of most base thing. The existing offering that it's replacing isn't necessarily software. TradeMe is just software as a service replacing second-hand shops or augmenting second-hand shops. And so it's not necessarily replacing something software-based. You know, it's about user-centric design. You know, Sam Morgan wanted to buy a heater. He developed a website to replace having to go down to his local second-hand shop. SaaS is a model that requires scale to be built quickly. All SaaS requires scale to be built quickly, but SaaS relies on that scale being built really quickly because you're not adding a lot of extra value to the users. And generally, going in hand with that previous one, it's a high volume, low margin model. And so it's lots of packets of little bits of revenue, generally. Pros and cons of the SaaS model. It's arguably simpler than SaaS-B. It's really hard to sit down and think, hey, I'm going to build an accounting system that not only is an accounting system, but it's going to add this amazing amount of value to small businesses. It's a lot harder than sitting down saying, hey, I'm going to do an accounting system that lots of people already do, but I'm going to do mine, and it's going to be hosted online. Yeah? So it's a lot simpler. It's more incremental because if you don't have that kind of initial vision of what it's really going to be and the value it's going to add, you can kind of bolt bits on as you go along. You can kind of incrementally add another feature or add another thing, and it's a little bit ad hoc. But there are some threats in there. Any substitution model requires you to get to a certain scale in time before a competitor comes in. Salesforce have done it, they've got big, and that bigness gives them a bit of protection. But for those of us in New Zealand that are trying to build SaaS models, it's pretty hard because you have to get pretty big, pretty fast to give yourself a bit of a buffer from the competitors. Generally, it's a lower margin model, so I mean it depends whether you want to make lots of money or you don't. Assuming that the startup wants to make lots of money, then generally SaaS will provide them with less revenue or less margin. And it's less sticky than desktop software. Desktop software, you pay big bucks for the bloody thing and then you're stuck to it. I mean, no one here probably likes Microsoft Office, but I would think at least half of us actually use it because you're kind of locked in. There's that stickiness.
How many actually use it?
How many do use Microsoft Office? How many want to use Microsoft Office? Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. I think there's some. I mean, just talking about Office, there are some really good things. I mean, everyone's seen Google Apps, and it's 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 pretty minimal really, but there's places like or businesses like Zoho that are setting up office applications online that have pretty much full functionality, and that's the way of the future.